ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Good Old Fashioned Philly Wrestling Podcast. My name is Rick Smooth, and during this quarantine, I figure I might as well speak a little bit about some of the things I've been watching. I watched The Dark Side of the Ring the other night. A couple of the different episodes. I saw the Dino Bravo one. I saw the Chris Benoit one. The Gino Hernandez one. And, a while ago, I saw the Bret Hart one. Okay, so this is what I'll talk about, all right? So the Dino Bravo one, I did not know that Dino Bravo was such a star up in Canada. I mean, when he was in the WWF, I used to go to those shows, and I used to see him wrestle, and thought of him as just kind of another guy, even though at that time the level of talent in the WWF was so huge that it's very easily to have missed somebody like him as far as, his true talents. And I appreciate what Dark Side of the Ring did for Dino Bravo. I think that was a really nice thing that they did for him, showing his Canadian legacy. Because, people like Rick Martel, everybody knows is like as – that if you're a wrestling fan and you really know about wrestling, Rick Martel is as over as can be up there. So just to know that Dino Bravo that's very cool stuff. And he was in the shadow of a lot of guys in the WWF at that time. People like Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior. There's no way out. You know what I mean? So I'll go right down the list and I'll talk about the Chris Benoit episode right now. The Chris Benoit episode has been a long time coming, and I think the fans kind of need that kind of closure as far as what led up to the events. And in hindsight, looking back on it now, it just looks like that Chris really went down a downward spiral after Eddie died, and I think that's the fairest way to sum it all up on what happened. Eddie comes out looking like some kind of priest, some kind of a person that held everybody up around him. So Eddie comes out looking like an angel in the whole situation. And, it's a sad situation. I watched it. I cried a little bit. But at the same time, it was actually in some weird way kind of nice to see some of that old footage of Eddie and Chris and stuff like that and Nancy. Now, I'll talk a little bit about Nancy, just as in I grew up watching her too. When I was younger, I wasn't really a fan, and it's no disrespect to the woman, but it just is what it is. As far as Chris goes, I grew up watching him, and he was obviously one of the best to do it. I wouldn't say he's the best professional wrestler ever, but I would say that he kind of embodied what a professional wrestler was in the 90s. And they didn't really talk about his WCW title run, and I know why they didn't, and I'm not going to speak about it right now because I could tell somebody doesn't want to be involved in this conversation, and that's fine. So what I will say, though, is Chris Benoit and Booker T had some of the best matches I've ever seen. They were on the level of, Dynamite Kid, Tiger Mask, stuff like that. You got to go check out some of those old WCW matches if you like good wrestling between Booker T and Chris Benoit, the Best of 7 series and all that. It really put both those guys into superstar status around that time, the late 90s.